we are now going out. Let's see what I can do to delete the crap. I want that button. Now you all get to see my thinking too hard face. Okay, we are live. We are live in the correct place. I understand vaguely what is going on. My chair is a ghost behind me. I'm deeply amused by my ghost of a chair. I'm going to keep my ghost of a chair. Yeah. And it says you're muted. I don't know why it says you're muted. It's because my computer had to reboot because we had tornadoes and the power went out multiple times. Why can Alan, but I'm so confused.
No volume from me. Oh, no. Actually, Alan says he doesn't hear me.
Okay, you're now going out, so.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, same thing. Like, I hadn't done a live stream in 2 weeks, and everything needed to be refreshed. OBS needed to be updated. My Audacity needed to be updated. It's, 2 weeks, and everything is already upside down.
Yeah, so for those of you who didn't hear, Friday, the massive storms that killed a bunch of people in Alabama.
Yeah.
They went through Missouri and Illinois. We had 2 different tornadoes in the county I live in, one north of me, one south of me. I live up on the bluffs, so very rarely do tornadoes make it up onto the bluffs. We've had one happen in the, oh God, I've lived here almost 20 years. In the 18 years that I've lived here, and we've been doing Astronomy Cast, we started Astronomy Cast the 3rd week I lived in this house. So I know how long I've lived here due to Astronomy Cast.
It's Astronomy Cast house, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's scary.
my husband.
And so, like, what
and my
is your
dogs
defense? What is your tornado defense in your house?
My studio. It is a room in the house. It's protected by a patio on that side. It's in the basement. There's one other window that is over on the driveway, which are somewhat sheltered. And other than that, it's also the nicest room in the basement because it happens to be my studio.
Right.
So, we come down and we hide in the studio.
But it's not like a proper shelter.
No, it's
like if a tornado wanted to tear your roof off and get at the tasty goodies inside, it could reach you.
So to get us down here, it would have to tear 3 stories off of our house.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in an old wooden house. So tearing it apart is harder. So when the tornado went through our neighborhood, like it went 2 blocks away from us back in 2013, I think. 2012, 2013. Yeah, it was 3 blocks away from us.
Oh,
so
that's scary.
We went down. We were driving home when it happened, and I was this is a good story. So sorry, everyone's going to have to listen. Mm-hmm. My friends and I had gone out for Mexican food after riding our horses, and we took our husbands so we would have designated drivers. And my husband is Canadian and from British Columbia and actually grew up near where Fraser lives now. They were both in college at the same time and somehow didn't know each other.
Yeah, we were both in the same engineering class at UBC.
Yeah. And so have you ever experienced a tornado? Because Kyle hadn't.
No. Yeah. I've seen a dust devil.
Yeah, exactly. So we were all out drinking, and I'd had like a fishbowl sized margarita at a Mexican place where we tip well and they know us, and I was Yeah. So Kyle is driving my Jeep Wrangler, and he's never driven in four-wheel drive mode before. He's never put it in four-wheel drive mode before. And so we're all out at the Mexican food place, which is important to the story, is east of where I live. Almost straight east from where I live. And the storms come in from the west, and they move toward the east. And they almost always fall apart when they hit the Mississippi River. And my phone alerts me because of SIUE when there's a really bad storm. And so we're all out eating Mexican food. Everything's fine. We're not expecting anything bad. When my friend's husband gets an alert on his phone that his office, which is right next to the Mississippi on the Illinois side, had been destroyed by a tornado, and he needed to get to work immediately to get their servers back online. And so my husband and I, in a moment of me being drunk and him not knowing tornadoes, decide we're going to race home to make sure the dogs are safe. And we're going to somehow beat the storm to my house, which is like a 15-minute drive.
Right.
And so we're heading home, and we're on the road heading straight west. So we're heading straight into the storm. And I look out across the cornfields, and it's super dark, and I can see this band of light under the storms across the cornfields. And I then see a cone come out off in the distance.
Oh my God.
And like, I'm like, can't say something to husband will panic. But my right arm has decided to work independently and is now pointing at the storm. And Kyle's like, what is it? And I turn and I look straight ahead as a cone comes out of the sky directly in front of us. We are now in a soft trop Jeep Wrangler driving through a tornado. And I'm like, put it in four-wheel drive. He does not know how to do this, so I'm telling him what to do while I'm moving the handle. And we small trees, luckily farm country, so it's only like the tiny trees and the culverts that are falling down. We get through it. We get to a gas station. There are still more tornadoes all around us. We bang on the door of the gas station. Everything's locked. Everyone is in the freezer where they belong. And so we just sit there, and I don't have my phone for whatever reason. So I take his phone and log into Facebook back when it was easy. And I put a post of, if you don't hear from us later, this is where we died. Right,
I'm in Kansas now.
Right.
No, I'm not. I've been unkansased.
So finally they open up, they come out of the freezer at the gas station. We go hide at the gas station. Massive oak tree had fallen down in the road, so we couldn't get home. And so we're basically waiting to see when traffic starts coming back down the hill so we can get home. And we got home. Our house was fine. Power was out for 3 days. We figured out, by the way, if you put dry ice in your freezer, it will keep the entire refrigerator cold. But then when the power comes back on, you have freezed your refrigerant, so it's not going to work until it thaws out.
Right.
So we went walking the next day and could like walk along the track of the tornado. And what had happened is it dropped out of the sky onto the SIUE emergency broadcast building. The first thing it destroyed was the building that text messages you that there's tornadoes.
Right.
So there was no alert that went out. It was a Friday night, so no one was home or everyone was on the first story of their house. It hit the ground, so it was bouncing along. That's what tornadoes do. It took out a graveyard, which is easy to repair. And then it like went along and knocked trees over and took the roofs off of houses. But like you could follow the track, and we had driven straight through it as it went up a road and then skipped into farm country. We were super lucky. I don't know how a Jeep Wrangler with a soft top survived that, but go Jeep go. Yeah. But none of the houses were completely destroyed, and it was all old construction. So like shingles were missing, trees hitting houses were some of the biggest damage. And there was an old brick building that someone had put really ugly vinyl siding on, and the tornado was like, nope, no more vinyl siding for you. And underneath, the brick building was fine. So vinyl was removed, brick house was fine.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
And then we had another tornado that went through a different part of town that took out an Amazon building on my birthday.
Right. I remember seeing that on the news. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we will now, because of climate change, get December tornadoes.
Yeah. So my version of that, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, we had the latest round of earthquakes here on Vancouver Island. And we were sitting in the living room and I felt this like a giant sort of sideswipe the house once. Just whole house just went shake. And then it was over. And that's super weird. Like that's not normal.
That's
like
not
normally it's this thing that kind of builds up. It goes whoop, 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 and then it sort of settles back down again.
Yeah.
This one, it wasn't very strong, and it was just this one shove. And I looked over at Carla and I'm like, earthquake. And she's like, what? No. And she didn't even notice. And it was over. And so she's still waiting. She can't wait for her first earthquake. So and I know what it's like. It's like, as long as it's not scary, it's fun. And then as soon as it becomes scary, it's not fun. All right, we should get on and do our job.
Okay, I need to find one more window. Otherwise I can't thank patrons. That user identity. Yeah, I was in California visiting David Joseph Wesley for the 2019 4th of July quake, and there were two biggies, two that were over 7. The first one, we were at home getting ready to go to Universal Studios, and I was sitting on the floor with Rux, and the room started vibrating, and we just looked at each other with the confused dog face, the head tilt of, is this really happening? And Dave comes out from the bedroom and he's like, this is an earthquake.
Right.
Sorry.
First one? First time?
Well, it was really big, and it felt like it lasted 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
that's much more my experience.
Yeah. And then we went to Six Flags, and while we were on the mummy ride, the ride just stopped midway through, and it shakes the bejesus out of you, and then it stopped, and we got off and we checked our phones, and we had just gone through a really big earthquake, but because we were on the mummy, we had no idea.
Yep.
All right, I now have everything open. We can now start. I am pressing.
All right, I pressed record.
Oh, I need to check if my audio settings are right. I'm sorry. Everything is screwed up today, so checking one more thing. No, that one was actually fine. All right, so...
Can I press record now?
Hold on. It's making me type things in. All right. Yes, you can press record. We are now
press
recording
record.
Everything.
Okay, here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 748, New Insights into Fast Radio Bursts. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. I'm Fraser Cain. I'm the publisher of Universe Today. With me, as always, is Dr. Pamela Gay, a senior scientist for the Planetary Science Institute and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I am doing well. We had massive storms over the weekend. So my studio is a hot mess because we all hid down here, but everything here is fine. Heart goes out to everyone in Alabama. They got it much, much worse than we did. We just have downed tree limbs. Spring is here. Spring is here.
So I had a week, which was, we weren't here last week. That was because I was dealing with my server.
We were here last week. We weren't here 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
You were still dealing with your server.
Yeah. So I guess, So last week was before I'd sent out the video explaining what had happened and sort of what we needed. And now the response has been overwhelming, that people have just jumped to our assistance, and the gap that I needed to fill for the gap that I need to fill for Universe Today, from the shortfall of the advertising has been filled. So we are set. We have the budget to continue on with all of the writing, with all of the team that we even have. I think we'll have budget to bring on new writers if we need to. And it's so surreal to look at the Universe Today website, and it just has no ads. It has nothing. It's
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
You need your archives back, though. I was trying to find old posts and couldn't.
I'm at 2013, so I'm bringing the years back one at a time very carefully because each one is injecting 1,000 new articles into the database,
Yeah.
and then the site kind of freaks out for an hour after I do that. So I'm doing this 1 year per day, and so I'm still catching up. But it's funny because I still have this very instinctive, like, I've got to be careful about the topics that we choose. I'm like, no, I don't.
No.
I don't care anymore. And so the new cycle for James Webb was released. So all of the stuff they're going to be doing for cycle 4, all of the planetary stuff, and so I was talking to Matt, who's going to write a story about this. I'm like, let's do like a 4-part series on cycle 4. And he says, actually, I think it needs 5. I'm like, done. So we're doing a 5-part deep dive into all of the different science that's planned for Webb for the upcoming next cycle. So
amazing.
one whole thing about exoplanets, one whole thing about cosmology, one whole thing about Milky Way stuff and stuff in the solar system and so on. Yeah, and it's great because it's just like, this is what I want to see. This is what I want to know. I want us to investigate this. And so I chewed up 30 stories from the LPSC meeting in I don't know where
The
it was.
Venus news that came out, Houston. It was in Houston.
Houston, yeah. So yeah, there's mission ideas.
Yeah.
There's incredible new stuff and nobody is reporting on this because there's no press releases because everybody's uncertain.
I was
Well,
so
we're certain,
frustrated with
we're
that.
moving forward. So I've got probably 30 stories coming out just about this one meeting.
Yeah.
New mission ideas. Look, we've got a couple of them already on the site. The thing called the Nighthawk, which is a beefed up version of the Ingenuity helicopter that would go to Noctis Labyrinthus and fly at 100 meters and carry a 5 kilogram payload and circumnavigate the whole area. So we've got a lot of really cool stories. So anyway, thank you everybody who responded and helped us make this a reality. And I will pay back your kindness in a fire hose of ad-free space news. Enjoy. It's time for an update on fast radio bursts, a phenomena that we've only known about for a few decades. In this time, astronomers have learned a tremendous amount about them. They're not solved, but we're getting closer. And we'll talk about it in a second, but it's time for a break. And we're back. So we last covered fast radio bursts. I just checked the site, was episode 475, which that's 300-ish episodes ago, which is 6 years. We do about 40 episodes a year.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's
So
been
it's
a hot
time.
minute.
Yeah. It's time for an update on fast radio bursts. What have we learned? I guess, well, let's go back first and let's just like set the mystery, which is like, how do we first even find out about fast radio bursts?
It was a student. So back in 2007, David Loamar, and I'm sure I mispronounced that, and I'm very sorry if you are out there human. You do lovely research. And he was going through looking at pulsar data, and in the midst of the pulsar data, saw this super weird flash, brought it to the attention of his advisor. They confirmed it was real. And since then, people have been finding them both in archival data and then finding them in real time, including they did a purpose-built radio array, CHIME, just to study these things. So since 2007, we went from a student going, hey, there's this weird thing in the archive, to now building telescope arrays that have multiple systems scattered about Canada and the United States that are trying to pinpoint what they are, where they are, and exactly what they do and do not do in the sky.
I mean, to be fair, Chime wasn't purpose built for this. It's more it was originally designed to observe the sort of radio afterglow of the Big Bang, the early universe, but it's like perfectly
and
capable for this job.
They
and so
did add-ons to it that
right. Yeah, and most of the discoveries about fast radio bursts have come from CHIME, which is this awesome snowboard half pipe like radio telescope here in British Columbia. I hear it's a sick ride if you catch if the snow's right. So we've got this weird mystery, and so here we are now 20 plus years after that, or not, almost 20
Yeah,
years after
yeah.
that first discovery. And like, what have we learned in this intervening time?
So the first thing that we were able to figure out is to get something that exists for that brief a moment in the time. So the longest of these are 3 seconds ish. Most of
Wow.
them are millisecond in time. That means they have to be super small because light takes time to move. And the larger the thing giving off the light, the longer the amount of duration it has to have for the light from the entire object to get to us. So the fact that they exist for such a brief moment in time means they have to be measured in hundreds of kilometers or less. So that instantly implied this has to be something that's going on with a very tiny object or taking place in the environments of an object where the part of the environment that is doing the thing that is being done must be very small.
It's funny, like originally there was a lot of these questions of, are these just reflections coming from Earth? Is this something that's happening within the solar system? And over time, they're at least able to confirm, no, these things are extragalactic. And then once, as you say, once you get extragalactic, then whatever it is has got to be releasing a
Vast
ludicrous
amounts
amount
of
of
energy.
energy, but in the radio spectrum. So you're not getting
Yeah.
this gamma ray burst where the telltale signature of a star going boom or two neutron stars colliding with each other. You've got this thing that is sending out this weird radio blast, which is a colossal amount of energy, but without all of the other stuff. I mean, this, and at random times, you're not getting this repeating thing like we see with pulsars. You're not getting the radio, but also some kind of visible afterglow that you see with supernova and other things. You just get this random flash of a ludicrous amount of radio energy, and then mostly you don't see it anymore. So, how did astronomers start to really chip away at this problem?
So the first thing was that lack of gamma rays that you mentioned is hugely important because when we start thinking about what creates light and is tiny, the first thing you go to is neutron stars. We had in 2004 this amazing moment where a magnetar on the other side of the Milky Way's supermassive black hole, so on the other side of the core of the galaxy, decided it was going to rearrange its magnetic field, and it released a massive gamma ray burst that went through the sides of space telescopes and saturated the detectors.
Right.
And so we know that magnetars can do these super brief, massive amounts of energy across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. But we don't see gamma rays associated with these fast radio bursts. And then we realized, okay, so most of the ones that we're seeing, we're only catching one at a time. So one goes off here, silence. One goes off over here, silence. But occasionally, just occasionally, we will get these repeaters that don't repeat with any pattern we've been able to figure out. So
But
that
at
was
least
new.
they give us the dignity of flashing from the same location multiple times.
And then, because the universe likes to confuse us, there is FRB, Fast Radio Burst, 1809-16. So 2018, September 16th.
Wait, you know what? This is exciting. We need to take another break.
Okay.
And we're back. All right. After that cliffhanger, tell us about the fast radio burst.
So there's FRB 1809-16. And we were able to identify where it is. It's in a star-forming region of a spiral galaxy. And this one, because it was determined to be different, repeats every 16.35 days. So we have one FRB, one fast radio burst, that for reasons we can only assume have to do with orbital motion, maybe, repeats every 16.35 days. So what do we know? Up until recently, we're going to have one more cliffhanger. Up until recently, what we understood was they have to be tiny, and we know that because of how briefly they flicker and flare, milliseconds.
They have to be extragalactic.
We have found some in our galaxy.
Okay. But they have to be outside of the solar system.
Yes, they have to be outside of the solar system, and we know some of them have cosmological distances. We know most of them don't repeat that we have seen. That doesn't mean they haven't repeated. It means we haven't seen them repeat. We know most of the ones that repeat do it randomly. We know there is one that repeats every 16.35 days, plus or minus 0.15 for those keeping track. And up until recently, all of them that we had found and been able to identify the location, which is a pain with these radio sources, were in active galaxies, star-forming galaxies, near the cores of galaxies, and we were associating them with areas that had very young stars, which is key because certain objects can only exist in star-forming regions, particularly magnetars. And so the thought was these must be neutron stars that have recently formed, are fast rotating, have powerful magnetic fields. The powerful magnetic fields being the key point. And something happens in the magnetic field that creates this massive release of energy. So, since we only find magnetars in areas that have had stars that recently died, that were massive, they have to be found in areas that are young and have star-forming regions. So things that are less than millions to billions of years old,
Right.
not ancient things, not dead
Right,
things.
because the biggest stars
die in millions
only
of years.
die in millions of years. And so you're going to have some star forming region. All of the O's and the B's,
Yeah.
they detonate within a few million years, and large stars leave neutron stars as their remnant, or black holes, but
Yeah.
neutron stars. And then the neutron stars, when they're freshly made, are spinning very quickly, and they're the ones that turn into pulsars. But also some subgroup, and like this is a mystery for another episode, some subgroup turn into magnetars.
Yeah.
And we don't entirely know why.
There are a lot of papers that this is what my gut thinks is going to prove out to be true. There are multiple theories out there. The one that I'm liking the most is that when you get stellar mergers leading to neutron stars, that's where you get the powerful magnetic fields. But that's just one of the many different explanations out there.
We just did a story about this, and about the source of magnetars that were pretty close. I think we called it so this is how you get magnetars. I'm gonna.
I couldn't find that one on your site. Yes, I saw that one when I Googled.
Yeah, so this is how you get magnetars. Stellar remnants, dynamo, supernova, differential rotation. Yeah.
Is that the binary star model for how to form them, where you have a supernova and a binary system? There are so many cool.
So they
theories.
they did simulations, and the best fit is known as the Taylor-Spruitt dynamo, which is well known. Stellar objects involves a differential rotation of a stellar core. So stars don't rotate. So it's caused by a fast rotating core.
So the core and the surface have differential rotation.
Right. And that the magnetar, that the supernova that created the magnetar transfers angular momentum to its core, thus creating a differential rotation in the star. And this then creates the bursts of the magnetic field that power the X-rays and gamma rays that we observe from these stars. That's the most recent, highest, one leading theory of how you get magnetars. But, one possibility is you have a star eat another star, and then that sets up differential rotation inside the star that then leads to the magnetar. But this is still an unsolved, and this is why I said, this is an unsolved mystery. It could be that you had a binary star, and one of the stars went off, and the sort of that changed the rotation of the star, that it's going a lot faster. But neutron stars are limited. When you get a new star, they're really limited to about like just shy of a 1,000 rotations a minute. Like,
so something weird has to happen to get the magnetic field, which is where interactions with something else, or I guess special supernovae that allow the core to have a different. This is one of these things where our ability to understand the universe is held back by our lack of creativity at times.
Right. But both of these, I mean, they're clearly connected.
Yeah.
And both of them are on their last, like they can't hide for much longer. Both of them, new instruments, new observatories, new techniques are coming online, new theories, better models, and both will fall.
Yes.
I think within, our lives anyway. All right, you threatened that there might be another cliffhanger, and why don't we go into that right now?
So it could.
Oh, hold on, no, break. And we're back.
All right, so all of these cool theories on we have understood what these are. They are they are magnetars in star-forming regions. Was the excitement of the journal articles, and then a paper came out that had found a new magnetar clearly located in an ancient galaxy.
Right.
And there'd been a couple of others that were associated with probably the outskirts of a galaxy with globular clusters. And so suddenly we have to figure out how to explain having these things in ancient areas, in places without star formation, in places where no self-respecting magnetar has thus far been found and clearly identified.
Right.
So the question becomes, how do you get these things occurring in the outskirts of galaxies? And the answer to that was, well, globular clusters do have stars that collide. And maybe if you have stars that collide just right, you get magnetars. So that is one straw that is being grasped at. And this raises the distinct possibility that we're going to find fast radio bursts, just like gamma ray bursts, and just like so many other things in the universe, have multiple origins, that more than one of the theories that we've looked at so far start to become true. And it's interesting to look at all the different things that are being figured out. Just at the very end of December, there were researchers at MIT that used scintillation, which is the way radio waves change in intensity when they come from extraordinarily small objects, to figure out that magnetar light is probably that fast radio bursts are probably coming from, sorry, there is a skunk staring at me through the window.
Whoa, that's creepy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry, Rich, you're going to have to edit that from the podcast. That's just one of those things that you pause and you stare back. There's one that lives there. I don't know why it's awake right now. Anyways, so there were researchers at MIT back in December that figured out using scintillation, which is how radio light can flicker as it passes through a medium, to figure out that the source of a fast radio burst is hundreds of kilometers likely from the surface. So this is part of a magnetic field that is creating this flicker or flash that we are seeing, again, milliseconds to 3 seconds in time. And so we're figuring out where in the environment of a magnetar these could exist. And we're also finding that they can exist in star-forming regions. They appear to be able to exist in the outskirts of galaxies, potentially in globular clusters.
Right.
And yeah.
And so, like, to summarize, like, the most likely cause at this point, the one that if you were to have astronomers place their bets, is that fast radio bursts are coming from magnetars. The flash of radiation is coming from magnetic reconnection events around the magnetar in the same way that...
So it's not the surface, it's the magnetic
flares.
field.
And so, and, you know, that matches our observation of the sun, and we get these solar flares, and the flares can be of differing strengths, and they go in different directions, and it's really just how the magnetic field lines twist and tangle around the sun until they're finally released in this burst of energy. But we see it in X-rays. We see it in gamma rays coming off of the sun.
Yeah.
We see it in visible light. And yet, whatever is happening with the magnetar, the bulk of the photons are coming in the radio,
Yeah.
and so we're just not seeing the other glows, except occasionally that we do, and then of course, how do you get magnetars? And then, like, that's a whole separate question that is still a bit of a mystery. And so I love that these are both, we know that they're related, but both are kind of mysterious.
Yeah.
And both will probably fall together once it's been figured out.
And I love this idea that magnetars can exist primarily in star-forming regions, but maybe also in globular clusters, that
Right.
the universe finds so many different ways to create things.
Well, and I know you really like these idea of the blue stragglers
Yeah.
in globular clusters, right?
Yeah.
You get these blue stars where there should be no blue stars in these ancient clusters, and the only explanation is that you have stars
Yeah.
collide, which makes sense when you've got a bunch of stars buzzing around like busy bees in this ball.
Yeah.
That every now and then two of them are going to find, strike one another, and then you get a new star that is either one star that's had half of its surface torn off, and added to the other star, or actually two stars have just directly collided and begun a new life as a fresh blue star again, which
kind
is
of
really
awesome.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole idea that stars never collide that they taught when we were young, totally wrong. Stars totally do collide, and this is how we get weird things sometimes. It's just one of the ways we get weird things. And this is why our show never needs to stop, because astronomers keep rewriting the books. They keep discovering new things. Every increase in our technology, whether it be the computational ability to do simulations or the observational ability to see the universe, brings us new understanding. One of the things that came out of the Lunar and Planetary Sciences Conference last week is just the time scales that we sometimes have to wait for new things to get put into orbit. And this is why we will probably never retire.
Yeah, people ask us if we're ever going to run out of topics, and the answer is absolutely not. That every time Pamela's like, got any suggestions for topics? I throw 30 her way without even blinking. It's easy every time. No problem. So yeah, the updates and the new things that are discovered. And just think about the new observatories that are coming online. I mean, later this year, we'll see Vera Rubin.
It put its camera on last week.
We've got the Extremely Large Telescope coming in 2028, and each of these will give us a dramatic new view into the cosmos and overturn and both discover entirely new things, right? We're gonna, at some point, I guarantee we will be talking in about 3 years about a thing that happens in the universe that astronomers had absolutely no idea that this was in existence and that this was a thing. And it turns out this thing is incredibly important. It gives us valuable insights into the very nature of the cosmos itself. And yet here we are, just completely ignorant to what that thing is. I look forward to that episode.
It's awesome.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you, Fraser. And thank you so much to all of our patrons out there. You allow us to keep going no matter how bad the rest of the world may seem. And thank you for giving us something joyful to do every week and to be able to pay our staff to do something joyful with us. This week, I would like to thank Sergey, Manouilov, Conrad Haling, Tusher Nakini, The Mysterious Mark, Hal McKinney, John Herman, Joanne Mulvey, Katie and Alyssa, Papa Hot Dog, Michael Hartford, Will Hamilton, Fairchild, Just As It Sounds, J.P. Sullivan, Galactic President Scooper Star McScoopsalot, BogieNet, Siggi Kemmler, David Truog, Nick Boyd, William Andrews, Alexis, Adam, Anis Brown, Astro Sets, Gold, Simon Parton, Claudia Mastriani, Abraham Cottrell, Arctic Fox, Andrew Stevenson, Jim McGeehan, Grigory Singleton, David Gates, Georgie Ivanov, Iran Zegrev, Father Prax, Nate Detweiler, Dwight Ilk, Disastrina, Lou Zealand, Paul D. Disney, Peter, Alex Rain, Ruben McCarthy, Astro Bob, Bob Zatsky, Alan Gross, Elliot Walker, Jeff McDonald, David Rossetter, Travis C. Porco, Mike Heisey, Jonathan Poe, RJ Bask, Demi Drake, Bob Crail, Tricor, Noah Albertson, Ryan Amari. Thank you all so very much.
Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye. And then they saved. I'm guilty of using a Windows system over the weekend, and my fingers like, wait, which keys are we pressing?
Right. Yeah, I'm Mac only now. I have one Windows machine that is now hooked up to my television in front of my treadmill so that I can play video games while I walk on my treadmill.
Yeah, so I have a Windows machine that is like it's mounted so that I can like bring my monitor in front of me while in my comfy chair. And then Steam Deck is Control C. So between using the Steam Deck a lot with a keyboard this weekend because I was Minecrafting, and
did you get the dock for the Steam Deck?
Yeah.
Okay,
I love the dock.
It works great.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
I hooked it up to my big TV and played a bunch of games on the big TV with the Steam Deck, and then you just take it off and then you go play with it. Apparently they've got a Steam controller that's coming.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
like a new
exciting.
version. There's an old Steam controller which works okay, but new one, because I really like the controls on the Steam Deck, and anytime I play with like a regular controller, it sucks because it doesn't have all the little goo gags on it. Doesn't have the touch. It doesn't have the touch pads. Doesn't have the back buttons, and so you don't have the level of control and configuration that you do.
Yeah.
And so you're limited by the number of games that you can play. Only the stuff that has good controller support, but not the ones that you've been able to bring in because of the flexibility of the Steam Deck. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hooked up to a monitor playing Minecraft, and you can set it up like it's a double screen if you're on the Linux desktop side. So I have Minecraft on the big monitor, Discord down on the Steam Deck monitor, and yeah, I basically read U.S. politics on Friday, and I was like, I noped out on the weekend. I put an audiobook in my ears, and I alternated between cleaning my house and Minecrafting.
I have been deleting podcasts from my feed.
Same.
I'm down to one podcast that talks about politics at all, and the one I've picked is called The Rest is Politics, which is a UK podcast, but they're both UK politicians. One's on the liberal side, one's on the conservative side, but they cover more world politics, and so they'll talk about what's happening in Germany, what's happening in Canada, what's happening in the US, what's happening in the UK, but in a very balanced, very sort of interesting way that's very international. Because I really think, you know, I had a couple of more US centric ones, and I just like, no, I can't do this anymore. I can't, I know we're at war, trade war, but I just can't.
What's the
my
name of the one
dopamine
you're
can't
listening
handle.
to again?
It's called The Rest is Politics. Yeah, it's really good. I just can't bring myself to deal with the highs and the lows of it. I'll wait, you know, like, oh, you know, it's time to vote. Okay, I'll go vote.
Yeah.
For our prime minister. Oh, it's, you know, this thing is potentially going to be affecting my purchases, right? So apart from that, I can't, you know, and it doesn't affect me. Like I can't go and protest.
Yeah.
Or get involved in what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, we've got our own country to work on. So.
I have a weird frustration because my representatives are all doing everything I would ever want them to. My governor is amazing. I'm in Illinois. And so it's like calling them up. All I can do is say, thank you for being awesome. Continue being awesome.
Right. Good luck with what you do.
So, yeah.
Do we have any update on the science? Because from what I heard, there was supposed to be a bunch of science cuts coming.
They haven't yet. They cut the office of the chief scientist last week.
Yes, but they've delayed the rest. And hilariously, it's because there's too much going on with NASA right now. You've got the launch of Sphere X and
Punch that finally went up last week.
Right. We've got
Crew
the
10
launch of the Crew
up.
10. We've got the potential landing then of Butch and Sunny. So and
then
there's so much important work going on in NASA that
Right.
nobody can find a time to hack their budgets in half.
Well, there's also all of the undeniable conflict of interest between DOGE staff, who largely overlap with SpaceX, and NASA staff. So that's like 10,000 lawsuits waiting to happen. They still haven't approved the administrator of NASA. So like Department of Education cuts came immediately after they put the new administrator in.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen consistently is they put the new human in, massive cuts occur.
So we're still waiting on Isaac, but it should be soon for Isaacman to get confirmed, right?
Yeah.
Like it's probably got to just be within a couple of weeks at this point.
So they're currently on recess.
Right.
So they put the budget through, which was highly controversial on Friday. It's a continuing resolution, so we aren't actually going to get a new budget for FY25 at all. It's just a repeat of FY24. So NASA last week, when they were presenting their slides on the budget, they were like, meh, no one knows what's going to happen.
Right.
So
according to the resolution, it's the same as it was last year.
Yeah, and
Right.
and what they were saying in the NASA sessions last week is everyone is holding their breath, waiting for the president's budget to be released, where they are expecting to see Science Mission Directorate get a 50% budget cut in the president's proposed budget. And then it comes down to what does Congress put through, and does do the administrations do what the Congress says or what the administration says? And when the courts try and enforce doing what Congress says, does anyone enforce? And this is where we're at a real question mark in U.S. history right now, is the courts are saying, no, you can't do that. And there was literally a politician this weekend that said oopsie in relation to not following judicial. So the question is, do we truly have three equal aspects of government that hold each other accountable, or do we have a rogue executive branch that
I think the part that's so hard for most people is just the level of uncertainty. That as soon as you inject uncertainty into an organization, no matter how resilient that organization is, you're going to like, even if you don't cut the budget at all, but you inject uncertainty,
right,
you're just going to cause all kinds of downstream damage. I mean, we're seeing this even with the U.S. economy right now. The stock market is down, 10%, not because anything really, like, it's not like the tariffs have really gone through between us and the U.S. and Mexico. It's just that there are these threats and counter threats, and as soon as the world is uncertain, your reasonable response is to tighten up like a turtle, hold on to your money, and watch to make sure that everything is going to be fine. And so you think about a place like NASA, if there's all this uncertainty rolling through, then all of the people who can find better jobs, who have been working on NASA because it's a passion. They want to be working with those individuals. They want to be working in this field. They want to do space exploration, but their finance friends are like,
this is
we
where
could give you $1 million. You can just come over here with your rocket science degree. And eventually they go, okay, fine. Like, this is too freaky. I'm going to go and take a job in private industry. You skim off the best immediately from what's left. And then the rest of the people are trying to entrench and trying to figure out how to hold on to their job, trying to create some kind of certainty in an uncertain world. Their performance is not their top priority anymore. So to just even jiggle the water to cause this uncertainty damages science. And I've been having a bunch of arguments with people about online for some stupid reason, because I'm an idiot, about science. And I talked about the cuts, and people saying, well, we don't need to spend that money. NASA scientists have been wasting money. We shouldn't be spending that money. And it's just like, historically, the United States has spent 4% of its gross domestic product on science. And by doing so, has catapulted to the most dominant science superpower on planet Earth in every single field of science that matters: health, space exploration, engineering, phones, internet, materials, everything. So the United States is the undisputed champion of science around the world, and it is the place where all good scientists want to go
Yeah.
to do their work. And so if you cut that funding, then the leadership moves somewhere else, and everyone else is keeping their science funding going at full scale, full speed ahead. We're not seeing any science cutting here in Canada, but we weren't spending as much as the US was. China is the place where I think you're going to see the discoveries really start to snowball now.
We're already seeing it.
Yeah, we're already seeing it. Yeah. But you're going to see it even because they're accelerating it. They are planning. They have the long-term plan. They have a 40-year plan or something like that to dominate renewable energy, space exploration, science across everything, health, and so on. So yeah, it's so weird to me.
There's a complicating. Well, I'm going to add a complicating factor to everything you said. So throughout my lifetime, people have been willing to take either government jobs or jobs in academia that pay significantly less than the same jobs would in industry, or their job doesn't exist in industry, but they chose to do something that, like, they could go into industry and just do something different, but they chose to have the often significantly lower paying job in academia or government because the jobs were completely stable. You could count on, once you made tenure, having a job for life. You could count on having a career for life in government with good health care in most cases. With the current round of layoffs occurring, which is also starting to happen at universities, Johns Hopkins University is looking to lay off 2,000 people. Mm-hmm. With these layoffs happening, you have now destabilized jobs that were able to say, come work for us, it will be a job for life. Yes, we're going to pay you less, but you're going to have certainty.
Yeah, it's compounding.
And so now people won't take these jobs at the lower rates anymore because that certainty is gone.
Yeah.
And so we're going to lose large numbers of people to industry who are just not going to go back, or not going to be able to go back because they don't have the receipts.
To Canada.
Or to Canada, or they're going to go to other nations.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing the world's science leaders salivating. No, you're seeing other countries, people who set directives in other countries, salivating over the influx of talent that we're going to be able to get.
Yeah.
And, it's good for us, bad for the U.S., but this is where it goes. We've reached the end of our hour. Time flies when we're having fun.
It does. It does.
What's happening? What do you got going on?
I am this close to launching a new citizen science project. I'm just waiting for the scientists to send me the approvals, and I have to write the terms and conditions of the website.
But you can't announce what it is yet.
No, it's not that exciting. So I have a not exciting one that I'm this close to launching, and then I can announce, because it's NASA funding, so it's already public, that we're going to be putting together a new project to map lunar melt in Lowell Crater. I'm doing that with Kirby Runyon. That one's probably a couple of weeks away, maybe a month away. So having funding allows me to fast track things. It won't be on CosmoQuest because I refuse to delete DEI content. So this is all going to be associated with the Planetary Science Institute where I work, because their CEO is a lawyer. And if NASA says PSI has to remove all DEI content, it will not. I will be fine. I will be fine.
Right. At least someone's going to go to bat for that.
Yeah,
that sounds good. So, I mean, I wish I could show you my screen. Maybe I can. Let me see. Let me show you my screen if you're gonna let me.
Yes, I can sort. No, that is allow. Hold on, I'm going to.
Yep. Okay. Yep. That did it. Okay. So let me just share. We'll get the right. Oh, this is gonna be too complicated. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
So I've got. So when people join as a patron, I offer to do an interview with them.
Yeah.
15-minute interview. And so my entire calendar is filled with 15-minute interviews. One, two, three, about 12 a day for the next 2 months.
That's amazing.
Isn't that
I am
crazy?
so
Like,
proud of everything you've accomplished because, like, over the years, I've been the one over here going, I survive off donations, can't do ads.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we have,
We survive off donations.
Yeah.
Don't do ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of crazy. So if I'm gonna look, like, my brain seems a little fractured for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
It's because I'm meeting individually with all the people who are single-handedly saving our business.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. All right. Time to go eat and then have a meeting. So we will see all of you next week.
all right, everyone. Go forth, be awesome, and follow all 3 of our Patreons. So, okay.